All right. Welcome to the Daily Faded. My name is Hetz, and this is where we get faded daily and talk about the news and politics of the day and of the weekend since it's Monday. Today is September 21st. Happy Solstice 2020. And this is TDF number 99, which I can't believe that I've almost done 100 of these silly live streams of mine. Well, before we get into the topic of the hour, the topic of the day, the topic of the weekend, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, let's catch up on COVID numbers. This is NCOV Live, NCOV 2019.live. And we see here that we're up to 31 million cases worldwide, confirmed coronavirus cases, 968,000 deaths, with 3,512 new deaths today, which is actually a relatively low number. However, I think there's a lot of reporting that gets missed on Sundays because Monday is frequently a low number. In the United States, we are up over 7 million confirmed cases of coronavirus. Remember when Donald Trump said there's 15 cases and tomorrow there will be 0, which didn't make sense at the time, was not reasonable at the time, and was clearly very, very wrong. We had 32,781 new cases today, according to NCOV 2019.live. Only 327 reported deaths, bringing our total to 204,445 deaths so far. And that number is we know it's at least 30 to 40,000 higher than that. But that's from a study several months ago that looked at excess mortality rates and excess morbidity. I don't know exactly what they call it, and stacked these excess flu and respiratory deaths on top of it and extrapolated, that there were at least 30 or 40,000 more deaths than were counted, like I said, several months ago. So, and then here in California, we've got 790,000 cases. 790,000 cases, only 48 deaths today, which is finally, that number is starting to consistently come down. So that's good. And 50. Excuse me. I saw a shirt the other day that says, I'm a stoner, I don't have COVID, or something like that, to explain away the stoner's cough. It's fascinating is looking at this list. 790,000 cases in California, 731,000 cases in Texas, 685,000 cases in Florida, 484,000 cases in New York, and 307,000 cases in Georgia. Only 2 of those states are blue states. Donald Trump came out last week and told us that if you take the blue states out of the equation, we really didn't do all that bad. Well, just on this first page here, you've got almost 2 million. No, you've got over 2 million who are blue state cases. And the blue states on this page have, I'm just eyeballing it here, 19,000, 29,000, 34,000 deaths. So when Donald Trump says you could take the blue states out, just assume it's dementia. The guy is clearly just not altogether there. And while we're on the subject of coronavirus, which I don't know how much we're going to revisit tonight. Oh, we are going to revisit it. Actually, I'll do that first before we get to RBG. So here's an interesting article from NPR about coronavirus and our amazing government. CDC publishes, then withdraws guidance on aerosol spread of coronavirus. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention posted guidance Friday evening saying that aerosol transmission might be one of the most common ways the coronavirus is spreading, and then took the guidance down on Monday. Now deleted updates were notable because so far the CDC has stopped short of saying the virus is airborne. The agency says the guidance was a draft version of proposed changes that was posted in error to its website. The CDC says that it is updating its recommendations regarding airborne transmission of the virus that causes COVID-19, and that it will post updated language once that process is complete. Over the weekend, the CDC page, How COVID-19 Spreads, included among the most common modes of transmission, quote, respiratory droplets or small particles, such as those in aerosols, produced when an infected person coughs, sneezes, sings, talks, or breathes. It continued, these particles can be inhaled into the nose, mouth, airways, and lungs and cause infection. This is thought to be the main way the virus spreads. The guidance also stated that these particles might travel farther than 6 feet. For a few days, researchers who have suspected aerosol transmission for months cheered the update as a long overdue acknowledgement of accumulating evidence for how the virus transmits, particularly in indoor spaces. So, I mean, you know, what can you say? You know, and then they took it down. And then they took it down. People wonder why people don't trust this administration on coronavirus. People wonder why people who were not anti-vaxxers to begin with are suddenly questioning vaccines. And when you see this kind of political manipulation of what should be scientific data, it just makes it hard. It makes it hard to believe anything they say or do. Anything they say or do. So, and this one makes it even harder. Notorious COVID troll actually works for Dr. Fauci's agency. The managing editor of the prominent conservative website Red State has spent months trashing U.S. officials tasked with combating COVID-19, dubbing White House coronavirus task force member Dr. Anthony Fauci a mask Nazi, and intimating that government officials responsible for the pandemic response should be executed. But that writer, who goes by the pseudonym Strife, isn't just another political blogger. The Daily Beast has discovered that he actually works in the public affairs shop of the very agency that Fauci leads. William B. Cruz is, by day, a public affairs specialist for the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. But for years, he has been writing for Red State under the Strife pseudonym. And in that capacity, he has been contributing to the very same disinformation campaign that his superiors at the NIAID say is a major challenge to widespread efforts to control a pandemic that has claimed roughly 200,000 lives. So again, I mean, to use an old-fashioned word, isn't this just tomfoolery? It's just fucking nonsense. These people who are attacking Fauci, these Trump stooges, these people on the right now, they're just engaged in tomfoolery. That's all it is. Tomfoolery. What makes a person so deranged that they would do that? They would be working for Fauci and then calling for doctors to be executed on Red State? Really? Oh man, these people are loco. They are stone cold loco. Under his pseudonym, Cruz has derided his own colleagues as part of a left-wing anti-Trump conspiracy and vehemently criticized the man who leads his agency, whom he described as the attention-grubbing and media-whoring Anthony Fauci. That is such an unfair characterization. Oh my God, he was on a magazine cover once. What a fucking crime. He has gone after other public health officials at the state and federal levels as well. The public health Karenwaffen, as he's called them, over measures such as the closures of businesses and other public establishments and the promotion of social distancing and mask wearing. Those policies, Cruz insists, have no basis in science and are simply surreptitious efforts to usurp Americans' rights, destroy the U.S. economy, and damage President Donald Trump's re-election effort. The dude works at the NIAID, whatever it's called. NIAID, the NIAID. That's where he works. I mean, these are just bad faith actors, I guess. He's just a grifter. Well, he's a grifter one way or the other, whether he's grifting the world or whether he's grifting Fauci. I guess he's grifting everyone. I think we're at the point where it is safe to say that the entire Wuhan virus scare was nothing more or less than a massive fraud perpetrated upon the American people by experts who were determined to fundamentally change the way the country lives and is organized and governed, Cruz wrote in a June post on Red State. If there were justice, he added, we'd send a few dozen of these fascists to the gallows and gibbet their tarred bodies in chains until they fall apart. First off, a fascist says, what? I mean, when you're a Trumper, you can't exactly call the other people fascists. I mean, you can call them that, but it's completely nonsensical. It's ridiculous. No one shows more signs of being a fascist than Donald Trump. So for him to throw that around, oh, because they want you to wear a mask so people don't die, that makes you a fucking fascist. Please, they're so disingenuous. They're such bad faith actors. Anyway, perhaps that's enough about COVID for now. Just more and more hypocrisy and nonsense from our ridiculous president and our ridiculous government. Whoops, sorry about that. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Where to start? Well, I'll tell you the truth. I just lost something. Boom. Sorry, folks. Give me 1 second here. Okay, guys, I'm sorry about that. Well, good evening, everybody. I lost it when I heard that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. I had an extremely emotional reaction to it. And not just because of the political ramifications or the political realities. I have a little bit of a personal connection to Justice Ginsburg, the late Justice Ginsburg. I am being watched by one person who already knows this story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. I was involved in the movie On the Basis of Sex, which is the narrative film about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, in which, why does that keep coming up? I just don't know. About Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the narrative film about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, not the documentary. Unfortunately, the documentary seems to be more popular in popular culture, and more people seem to have seen the documentary than the narrative film. This was starring Felicity Jones, and she was playing a young Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and it's the story of when, I'm going to refer to her as Ruth because that's how we talk about the character. When Ruth was a law attorney, and with the kind of backing of the ACLU, she started pursuing gender laws that she started looking at laws that discriminate based on gender. And eventually she found a case which would come to be known as Moritz versus the Commissioner of Internal Revenue, which was the story of a guy who was a traveling salesman who cared for his mother, his elderly mother, and took a tax deduction that was in the law a deduction specifically for women taking care of an older parent. It's a deduction for the cost of in-house nursing. And Moritz needed to do this because he was a traveling salesman, I think a book salesman, and needed to have someone come in and check on his mother when he was gone. And they said he couldn't, the IRS said he couldn't take the deduction because the law said the deduction was only for women. It's not for men. He can't take it because he's a man. And when Ruth Bader Ginsburg came across this case, and interestingly enough, her husband, Marty Ginsburg, was one of the all-time great tax lawyers. So he had a little bit to do with her finding this case. But when Ruth finds the case, she realizes that if she can successfully argue that a man is being discriminated against, that would prove the existence of gender discrimination. It would prove her point, so that she would, in essence, fight for equal treatment under the law for women by fighting for equal treatment under the law for men. And it's a great story. I found the script. A friend had read a couple of drafts of this script, and when she thought it was ready, she showed it to me. And in my previous life, I was a film producer, and so I brought it into my company and spent years developing it, doing many drafts, trying to figure out how to tell a story, how to make a movie out of a tax law case. It wasn't easy, to tell you the truth. And I don't know how well we succeeded. The movie was not a huge hit. I think the movie's really good. I encourage you to see it on the basis of sex. It will personalize Ruth Bader Ginsburg for you. But also working on that project, and the script was written by, I think her great nephew or cousin, or I'm not sure, but a great writer named Daniel Stiepelman, who would reach out to Ruth directly to ask her questions and had her read a draft of the script and everything. And, when she was in college, she had to take her classes and her husband's classes because he was sick with testicular cancer. This was in college in the 60s. And she still graduated #1 in her class. And then she came out and couldn't find a job because she was a woman, and no one would hire a woman to be a lawyer. And honestly, when she brought Moritz before the ACLU, they were not convinced. They were not convinced at first. They didn't necessarily want anything to do with it. Although they couldn't kind of walk away from her because she had a working relationship with the people at the ACLU. And but once they saw the argument that she was making, they became convinced. And the rest is history, because that case and another case in which they used the same arguments were the first two cases to find that gender discrimination was unconstitutional and a violation of the 14th Amendment. Anyway, enough of that. Look, this is a worst case scenario for Democrats, for the left, for decency, for civility, for society, for being in the fucking 21st century. I mean, Jesus Christ, you know how far back a conservative court can set us? Oh, God. Oh, it was apocalyptic all weekend, honestly. And I think, honestly, I feel like some of the young leftists out there in the Twitter sphere, I feel like some of them just I don't want to, I'm sorry, man, I don't mean to tone police my comrades as I see them, but I don't know how much appreciation there is for the fact that the 14th Amendment did not apply to women before Ruth Bader Ginsburg came on the scene. That's a massive thing, I mean, I'm 47. My entire life, the 14th Amendment has applied to women, and it's a completely different world. She changed the world. And we all owe her a great debt of gratitude. And the idea that she would be replaced on the Supreme Court bench by some corporatist, racist, Republican, anti-choice, anti-labor, anti-environment, anti-healthcare, anti-government, so-called constitutional originalist. Oh, please, give me a break. Give me a break. I suspect whoever they nominate is going to support household voting. That's what I think. Anyway, the one person who stood out as a boss this weekend, of course, was AOC.
Make sure that we honor the legacy of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who came right here and is a product of James Madison High School and is a proud New Yorker and Brooklynite. And it's extraordinarily important that we understand the stakes of this vacancy. Our reproductive rights are on the line. Our labor rights are on the line. Our right to health care is on the line. Labor and union protections are on the line. Our climate is on the line. With an early appointment, all of our rights, the rights that so many people died for, voting rights, reproductive rights, healthcare rights.
Just, just how everyone wants to watch AOC with some stoner coughing over it. Sorry about this, you guys. What can I say? You're watching because you're kind human beings. I just thought AOC laid out how much is at stake here. And look, all of this fretting and talking about the Democrats doing everything they can, everything in their power to delay this Supreme Court nomination, to delay the vote on this, it's kind of silly. Look, don't get me wrong. I do think they should do everything they can within reason. I do think they should do everything they can to delay the vote. And I'm hoping that the Democrats will step up in a way that they never usually step up. You can't forget that these Democrats have given Trump everything he wants. They've given him 4 years of raising the military budget every year. They gave him the USMCA. They gave him expanded spying powers. And Chuck Schumer fast-tracked Trump's judges to the federal bench. So it's just, I think what's crazy is that anyone in their right mind would think that anything other than a raw display of political power was going to be on the agenda. You know, as Bree Newsom Bass put it, the fascists are not being inconsistent. They were doing whatever was necessary to advance the white supremacist agenda during the Obama administration, and they're doing the same now. It's liberals and moderates who keep operating in a fantasy of bipartisanship and constitutionality. And what does she mean by a fantasy of bipartisanship and constitutionality? What she means is Joe Biden telling Republicans they better not be hypocrites. They better stand by the same standard they stood by in 2016. What is he thinking? Does he know what a fool he appears to be when he does that? I mean, it's outrageous. It's just outrageous. I'm going to read through Bree Newsom Bass's thread here. I've never seen a group of people so desperate for camaraderie with an opposition that keeps telling them to go fuck themselves. When do you ever see Trump and Republicans talking at length about a need for bipartisanship or longing for such? Liberals and moderates cling desperately to a mythical yesteryear when white gentlemen of every political stripe came together to peaceably settle matters concerning the natives, Negroes, immigrants, and women for the preservation of the great white republic. Ah, those were the days. Here, Bree Newsom Bass. I think that, I think this point is a point that's well made. There's a tyranny, and it's a long-standing tyranny in this country, and there's another. It's not just white supremacy; it's also a generational struggle. And when I say a generational struggle, I say what I mean by that is, there's a massive, by multiple orders of magnitude generation gap between the people who run this country and the very large population of people, I guess, under the age of 35, who just see the world completely differently, and it's not cool. It's not cool to nominate a judge who's going to put an end to legal abortion in this country and a woman's right to choose. That's not cool. The generation that's coming up is not going to stand for that. But you're going to saddle them with it for 30 years? 30 years of back alley abortions? Is that what we're going to have? The environment, the climate. One of my horrors is that the Trump court overturns the Green New Deal. And it's the end of the world as we know it. So yeah, the implications of this situation are massive. They're absolutely massive. Anyway, all right, look, I've got one other thing for tonight. I have been reading Rage by Bob Woodward. And there's something in here that I thought was kind of hilarious that I wanted to read to you. So Trump gave Woodward a whole bunch of, he gave him a whole bunch of the letters. I guess he gave him all the letters that Kim Jong-un sent to Trump. And they are hilarious. After, listen to this. This is so awesome. After Trump went to North Korea, when he stepped over the DMZ line or whatever it is into North Korea, and listen to the way they wrote. Kim Jong-un, supposedly Kim Jong-un, writes, "I want to thank you. Look, I mean, the world is watching and it's very important for the world. Oh, that's what he said in person. But then he sent a note that said, meeting at such a place shows that we are willing to put an end to the unfortunate past and also open a new future and provide positive opportunities in the future. If it was not for our excellent relation between the two of us, excellent relation between Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump, it would not have been possible to have had this kind of opportunity. It was an honor that you asked me to step over that line, Trump said, and I was proud to step over the line. So then Trump gets a letter. This is a little bit later. Trump sent a bunch of pictures from that day to Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un writes him a letter. I'm delighted to receive each and every single picture specifically chose from that day, which holds special meaning and will remain an eternal memory from that momentous and historic day. Those photographs now hang in my office. I express my appreciation to you, and I will remember that moment forever. Trump was not kidding when he said that they sent him love letters. My belief was that the provocative combined military exercises would either be canceled or postponed ahead of our two countries' working level negotiations, where we would continue to discuss important matters. Against whom is the combined military exercises taking place in the southern part of the Korean Peninsula? Who are they trying to block, and who are they intended to defeat and attack? Conceptually and hypothetically, the main target of the war preparatory exercises is our own military. This is not our misunderstanding. So this is the first time in these letters, they're all flowery and glowing and lovey-dovey. This is the first time where something actually comes up. Um, he goes on to describe um, he goes on to describe the exercises, and he then says, I am clearly offended, and I do not want to hide this feeling from you. I am really very offended. Your Excellency, I am immensely proud and honored that we have a relationship where I can send and receive such candid thoughts with you. So, this is all kind of hilarious, but it's also fucking terrifying that this is the behavior of two grown men who run nuclear armed countries. Oh, God. I mourn for the United States and I mourn for the world. With that cheery thought, I will see you tomorrow night at 8 p.m. California time, also known as 8 p.m. Pacific.